Well, England has like become like literally my favorite place to be in the world, the UK in general. Due to these 2 trips that I went on with my previous school, and then a personal trip that I took to Scotland that was on my bucket list my whole life. So when I got divorced, I was like, you know what, this Thanksgiving, I got a whole week off. I'm doing something for me. And I took a solo trip to Scotland all by myself. But in 4 years, I went to the UK 5 times after never having traveled overseas my entire life. Starting in 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of my previous employer, I've been all over Europe.
Nice.
I've been all over Asia. Yeah. Not necessarily for good things, but I was there.
Gotcha. Hi.
This falls
Andres, can you tell them for me? What?
Yeah.
What was your question?
this falls during like the beginning of January. I'll be in London for my birthday.
Yeah. It usually goes, the approximate dates are between like December 27th and January 4th. I say approximate because every year it's give or take a day. The 2 times that I went, those were literally the exact dates. Both times it was 27th through the 4th. So, so the kids might miss the first day back of the 2nd semester. Is what you're looking at, because
That's okay with me.
and if they don't miss it because they're on the plane, they might miss it because they're sleeping due to jet lag. So you just have to plan in advance for that. Yeah. So it's worth it.
I went to Paris
Uh-huh.
for New Year's of 93, 94. No,
I was trying.
92, 93.
Oh wow.
92, 93. Because I was there from 90 to 92. Yeah, I was there for 90. I was there for 2 years.
It's one per. It's one per.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, one per student is what I was gonna say. Yeah. So
Oh,
that's what
sorry.
he was trying to say. So I was just trying to help him with his words.
93, 94 is when I was in Paris for New Year's.
Oh wow, nice.
It was different, much different than what we do here.
Really quickly, if by any chance something weird happens and we have a lot of people here and I run out of packets, kids who have me in class, give your packet back. I'll give you one tomorrow. I'll get more copies during 2nd period. So have it tonight to look over for sure. But if we end up not having enough packets, that's what we can do.
Is this extended only to chorus students?
It's extended to everybody, but they do have to be a chorus participant starting next year to be eligible for the trip because they have to learn all the music.
They're actually going to be performing.
They are performing. There are 2 performances involved in this. One is with the big festival choir, and then one would be just our group.
Well, yeah.
I'm hearing Grace is wanting to like save up money to go.
Yeah, but since she has a job, it's for her. It's really for me.
My son Gabe actually wants to start saving up the money to go as a chaperone.
No, because literally.
Because his sister got to go twice. He only got to go once. We went his junior year and no, his junior year or sophomore year. 3 years in between. So we went his junior year and her senior year.
Even just give me some money, I'm satisfied because it's not fair. She has a job and I don't have a job. How much-
So you know what? You'll just have to treat the fundraisers like a job.
Exactly.
I always tell my kids, treat fundraisers like a part-time job because they actually pay out more per hour than a job does. Believe it or not, if you work them the same way. If you treat it like a job, money comes back. I mean, considering I had 2 of my own kids on this trip 1 year, and then I had 1 of my own kid on this trip 3 years later. That was a lot of fundraising. I did a lot of fundraising.
So when it says May 27th, 2022, you have to put the money for that.
The down payment we're talking, yeah, she wants down
Like in 2
payments.
weeks?
Yeah. So, and if you need to work something out with me, we can discuss, but
Okay.
yeah, the down payment is the commitment part. So it's easier to add people than just take people away. So,
Izzy.
hey. I mean, based on the people I'm seeing coming in the room, we're gonna sound good.
For next year?
The year after. You got a year and a half to do the payments and fundraise. So the reason I've opened it up to up through juniors is, and they have been told, the ones who are currently with me, if they're a junior, they will have graduated by then. So they have different rules that will apply to them. Like they will have to have a background check to be able to go on the trip, same as the chaperones. But they're going to be with me all next year to learn the music. So they will be prepared for it. They come back for like one rehearsal and then they come back for the trip. Yeah, I'm going to have a whole Q&A at the end of the presentation.
It has to do with chaperone.
Has to do with chaperones. Chaperones are the same cost as kids. I can tell you that
No,
much.
I'm not worried about that. And things like that.
It's a minimum of 1 for every 10 kids, but I usually end up with more than that.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, that kind of answer kind of helps.
Yeah, that is a mandated rule. It's a minimum of 1 for every 10 kids at least.
Is the chaperone cost the same?
The chaperone cost is the same, yes. And according to them, outside family members can pay for the thing. They just, if they want to be able to include it in everything, outside, like if, let's say you want a chaperone,
Right.
but like a husband and a younger child wants to come, the husband and younger child can pay to go the same price. They're just not chaperone. They have their own family room, and they can still go on the buses with us and all that. But they, for the school rules, though, they would have to have background check just like everybody else. Number 1, and number 2, they would have to be 100% responsible for anybody else who's there.
Right.
I discourage younger siblings.
Oh, yeah.
It's too much. It's a lot.
No, we're talking about a family trip.
Hmm?
We're talking about mom, dad, and
Yeah, well, those things right now, that's why I said that is their policy, the London International Choral Festival's policy. As far as the school is concerned, that's something I would still have to look into, should anybody need that investment. For the kids who stayed after for chorus, and then I said, hey, I'm gonna put you to work, I'll give you volunteer hours. They're like, yay. So I'm like,
she's trying to dig volunteer hours.
she's getting some good volunteer hours for me, and she'll get more over the next 3 years. So, especially if she keeps helping with Allstate, because she's
Oh, she loves that.
she's a people pleaser, so she's really good at that kind of stuff.
Worried about getting those volunteer hours for graduation.
Good, how are you?
There's so many. I was seeing that something about parental volunteer hours.
The parental volunteer hours, anytime you chaperone anything, that counts as volunteer hours. I had a bunch of parents who got their volunteer, got a huge chunk of volunteer hours for districts and then again for states. So. Mhm. And I need to, thank you for reminding me, I need to make me sign up for, I need volunteers for our dress rehearsal for the concert, for the night of the concert. So I have to make a sign up sheet on that, sign up genius and that.
Let me know. I might do that just for some parental hours.
Okay. I'm gonna figure it out, so do the payments, so I'm gonna start with basics. This is good practice then. But you come across your names and- Oh, there's, you know, you're gonna see a lot. You're gonna see a lot. So great. So. I actually have a video that shows you some videos to show you. Yeah. So just so you guys know, feel free to browse through the packet. When you start seeing the stuff that looks like this, everything that's in your packet, I'm gonna go through up here as well, so you'll see it larger and in color. There are some video links in this. Once people have committed to the trip, I will have in the Google Classroom and the other sites that you'll see are in there. I will have links to it so you can like access it at any point in time. Could be a good way to fundraise. You could show the videos to people or show people's links to this, like, this is what my kid's going to be doing. You know, a good way to get sponsors as well. So people will have access to what I'm showing you today. I also found a video of the last time they had the London International Choral Festival, which was New Year's 2020. That's where I was. My first, 2020 was an interesting year. It started off as one of the best first 3 months of my entire career. We went to London. We performed in the Super Bowl halftime show. With Shakira and J-Lo, yeah. We had numerous kids at Allstate. We had some of our best districts ever. We did a huge production of Les Mis. My daughter made Southern Region ACDA, and we were in Alabama and lockdown. That's literally, it was like one thing after another. Started in London. But that 2020 started in London. So I found the recording of the actual performance in the location where it will be. Because from where most of this stuff that you're gonna see in this packet is from 2017, 2018. They've updated the locations. So I did get a video in the actual location where everything's going to be happening. So I'm seeing some new faces in here. So to the new faces, let me introduce myself. My name is Eileen Wallington. You will never, ever, ever hear me called that. I go by Wally. So if you hear the kids talking about Wally, no, that is not my first name. I actually had a parent ask me that once. His first name was Wally. I'm like, no, short for Wallington. My first day as a choir director, I got dubbed Miss Wally, and eventually the Miss just kind of slowly faded away, and Wally it became, and to the point where I got divorced and kept my last name because I've been Wally for so long I couldn't imagine being anything else. So I'm really glad to see you guys here. I'm glad to see some of my current students. I've got some former students from last semester. Parents have already reached out to me, a few conflicts, so I'm going to be reaching out to them as well. Thank you to my 3 students who have volunteered to help. They were here after school today for a rehearsal. And after the rehearsal, I put them to work. So, so to Andres and Jasmine and Alexa down the hall, who are helping out. But I'm going to be showing you a presentation tonight. It's going to basically show you some videos and going through the packet, explaining what is involved in the actual trip itself. Firsthand experience, I have done it twice. First time I went, it was an absolutely incredible experience. I fell in love with it. They fell in love with me, evidently, because you'll see my picture and my students a lot in the advertising. So much so that when they were asking me to refer other schools, because you only get to go to this by invitation or by referral. So when they asked me to refer other schools, I was like, gosh, I wish I could go again. And they were like, we would love to have you again. You want to come? I was like, sure. So when I came here, I contacted Bob Bone and said, hey, I'm at a new school. And they said, hey, you want to come? I said, hey, yeah. I said, we're already doing some amazing things right in our first year. And if you guys don't know this, if you are new to the choral program here at Somerset, this is our first full year of the program. And in this first full year, our middle school students achieved straight superiors at districts, with half of the choir having just started singing in January. And they got a superior in March. And almost got a distinction from one of the judges. He was literally this close to giving them superior with distinction. And they're like, are you sure these are beginners? High school choir got straight superiors at districts, went on to states, got straight excellence at states, which was actually very hard judging. There are schools that consistently get superiors that did not this year, I found out. We actually scored really, really well based on the programs that I know that are out there. And they even got an A and an A+ from judges for musicality. So for first year, with all beginner singers, the fact that we have made it to states blows my mind. The fact that we got an A and an A+ for musicality, that means not only are they singing, but they're performing, and they're giving a performance to the audience. So there are incredible things already going on here, and they're just going to continuously get better. Based on the middle schoolers that I have who are going to be moving up into the high school by the time this happens, I have no doubt we will be beyond ready. And when we go to London, they're going to say the same thing about this school that they said about me at my private school, my past school, where they said, you guys are the best group we've ever had here. And that's what they're going to say about Somerset. That's what they're going to say about you guys. So I'm really, really excited to offer you guys this opportunity. I am going to be going through some stuff in the packet. I'm not going to start at the beginning. I want to start by showing you about the trip itself. So it's about, I think the third page in your packet is where it starts. You'll see a page that looks like this. So that way I can take you through. Basically, this gives you an overview of everything that goes on with the London International Choral Festival. I can tell you myself some history regarding it. Originally, this goes hand in hand with the London New Year's Day Parade. And how this came about, I found out, is there were choir directors who were chaperoning for their bands. And the choir directors said to Bob Bone and Malcolm and the other people in charge of this, why don't you have anything for choir? So they're like, that's a good idea. So in conjunction with the New Year's Day Parade, they then formed the London International Choral Festival, and all of it, they go hand in hand. So we will be at the same hotel with some of the bands that are marching in the parade and things like that. And we have a lot of, you'll see in the videos that I'm going to show you. So this is our information packet for the London International Choral Festival. I blew it up here as best I could. This basically, next page just tells you similarly to what I just told you. There is a video on here from Bob Bone, the director. When you get the actual link to this, you can feel free to look at that if you want. It is really geared more towards the teachers than it is the parents, basically trying to talk us into doing their program. So having met Bob Bone myself, I don't need to watch this video. If you guys want to watch that at a later date, feel free. This right here is where they used to have the International Choral Festival. As you can see, they're going to be performing with a full orchestra. Okay, and by the way, if you see any red dresses on here, those bright red dresses, those are my former students in there. So I'm sitting somewhere down here, you can't see me. Destination events, just buzzing through some of these pages. Destination events is the father organization for the travel organization. It's also one of their branches is Youth Music of the World. And they are the ones who deal with music trips that go overseas. When you get this, you'll have links. You can go to their page and check it out. You can look them up. You can Google them as well. This is all in your packet, but that'll give you a little bit more information on the company that actually organizes the trip. They have this all down to a science. Everything is completely set up. Everything is completely organized. They've been doing the London New Year's Day Parade for a very, very long time. How do I know this? I used to be a cheerleading coach back in the 90s. And girls, the captains of cheerleading squads who go to, I believe, UCA camp automatically get invited to the New Year's Day Parade. So I had a student in the New Year's Day Parade back in 1995. So this same organization that brings in the bands and the cheerleaders and the dance teams also organized the trip for the London International Choral Festival. So here is where I'm going to take you to a video, and you'll get a little taste of the choral festival and the parade. This was my first year going this actual performance. So like I said, when you see the red dresses, you'll see my students mixed in there. And those of you guys who know Miss Ace, your sub, you'll see her in here too. Hampton Court, Windsor Castle, the Thames boat ride. Royal Observatory in Greenwich. Here's me.
Wow, look at this.
Wow, look at this.
94% of people
I
believe
can't
company
find the
culture.
button to get out of full screen. There it is. All right. And I get this out of the way. So anyway, that's a little snippet. What you saw in that video was not only the actual International Choral Festival performance, but you also got to see some of the tours that the kids are going on while they're over there. Got a little bit more on that for you. So singing at the International Choral Festival, the main performance venue is no longer this hall. It is actually now Suffolk Cathedral. It looks like Southwark. It is actually pronounced Suffolk Cathedral. If you saw the picture of my group in the red dresses in a cathedral, that used to be where they had the little small group performances, small group meaning kids from your choir only. So they would have like group like 2 or 3 schools together and they would give a little mini concert. Now that's actually where they host the whole International Choral Festival with all the combined groups. So the 2020 video that I'll show you actually shows you that location used as the choral festival location. But what they do is they have other little local areas now where they choose for the little mini concerts, and they call that the concert series. They have it both for the London New Year's Day Parade and for the London International Choral Festival. So they'll have like band concerts that people from the general public can actually go see, and people from the general public in London can actually come to our concert. And they have them signed. We did a tiny little church, well, tiny by the standards other than Suffolk Cathedral, pretty big church compared to the old ones you see down here in Florida, but you know, the old stone churches with beautiful acoustics. So we performed the last time in a church kind of outside of Kensington. So definitely hit all the different areas. And then again, as I said, we had the big main performance at Suffolk Cathedral. So that's what those are, is just some of the examples. There's an example of the music they sang back in 2018. Okay, Peter Holder, let me tell you a little bit about Peter Holder, because this is somebody you want to know the name of. Peter Holder is the rehearsal conductor. So he rehearses with the kids. Incorporated into their trip, there will be a rehearsal time to prepare for the choral festival, obviously. He actually rehearses with the kids. He also will travel here from the UK in advance of the trip to work with the choir directly. I do have a friend down in Palm Beach County who is also going this year. He's the one who recommended me back the first time around. And he's also at a new school this year. So we're both, you know, bringing new students, which is great. But he'll be going at the same time, and we actually can even coordinate a combined rehearsal, maybe a little bit of sharing so that we're learning together. Really excited about that. He's got an outstanding program down at Forest Hill. I used to be at Boynton Beach High School for a long time. They've traveled the world performing. They've been on the Today Show, the whole shebang. Absolutely wonderful choral conductor. Peter Holder, what makes him special is not just that he's going to come here and work with your kids. He is the organist and sub-choir director at Westminster Abbey. If you don't know what Westminster Abbey is, that is where the Queen of England got married, got coronated. It is the Queen's church when she is in London. When she is in London, Westminster Abbey is where she attends church. Basically, he is the organist to the Queen. He's 30 years old. When I met him, he was 27. He had had that job for a couple of years. I'm like, can you imagine being that young and being organist for the Queen of England? And yes, He did play at Harry and Meghan's wedding in Windsor. So he told us about that in advance. So of course we had to all go be like, oh, we gotta watch this now. He is the nicest guy in the world, absolute gem. The kids adore him. But he's the one who will come here and actually work with the students and rehearse the music with them for the actual choral festival. You can look up information on him, peterholdermusic.co.uk. It is in your packet. And he has a little message here for the kids. Who is that crazy looking lady in that picture? What is she doing? I don't know, man. Okay, I was going to show you some of these concert series videos, but they only put the bands on there. I'm like, where's the choral video? I want to see the choral video. So what I will do instead is this the right one? I wanted to show you a little snippet of the choral festival, as I told you, at Suffolk Cathedral. So this is the most recent one in 2020. What they do now, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Keep sharing. What they do is the big mass choir, and then each choir now also gets to do one song within the big concert. So they'll have a large audience with all the people from all the schools, all the dignitaries and everything, and the kids will get to, so I'll skip ahead and show you another performance in here. Give you an idea of the this guy is your typical crazy conductor. It's hysterical. He's like, there's Miss Ace. When she was in high school. I'm gonna skip forward. Skip ahead to one of the little mini performances. There are only 18 kids in this group, so a bunch of them are all seniors now. They were freshmen this year. A lot of them sophomores. So just wanted to give you a little snippet so you could get a feel of what the location sounds like, what it feels like. It's absolutely glorious place to perform, not gonna lie. So back into here, coming down. Okay, so as you guys, I'm sure are aware, if you are going overseas, you will need to have a passport. We want you to have your passport in hand by the beginning of the 23-24 school year. So don't apply for it in the fall before the trip. Already have it by then. Strongly recommend you get a head start. Back then it was taking about 4 weeks to get a passport, but with the way things are going right now, I do not trust that process. If you're going on this trip, if you decide you're going to do it, I would start getting your passport this summer.
I'm actually going to interrupt because most of you guys know that I take the kids internationally every spring break. I can tell you that our upcoming trip next March to Japan, I have had students and adults who applied like 3 months ago, still have not gotten it, but have gotten letters back saying it's going to be processing taking longer. or they needed something else, or their picture wasn't good enough, or whatever. So 3 months ago, and they still haven't gotten it. So just if you are planning on doing this, apply sooner, don't wait
Yeah,
at all.
start that process no later than this summer would probably be a smart thing to do. And if you already have one, check your expiration date. Yeah, renewal is, but nowadays, I mean, honestly, everything is taking longer right now. You recently?
Renewal?
Awesome, good to know. Yeah, I got my renewal in 2 weeks too, thank God, because I didn't realize it was close to expiration the second time I went. I was like, oh, you gotta get on top of that. So yeah, make sure you check your expiration dates, okay? Moving on from there, getting you to London. They use these airlines to get to London. They fly us out of Miami. Okay, so how we will get to the airport, I will work that out. That's something we haven't discussed yet.
Well, but typically when we fly out of Miami internationally, parents are required to bring these students, depending on what time we depart here, either to school, and we take a bus to the train station off Cameron Avenue, and then we take the train the rest of the way down, all the way to the airport itself. If we aren't able to take a bus from here to the train station at Cameron, then we have the parents drop the kids at the train station there, and then we take the train the rest of the way down. On the way back, typically what we do, if it's one of those middle of the night flights, parents usually will drive all the way to Miami and pick the kids up at the airport there. If it's not, if we're back at a decent hour, it's the same thing in reverse. We take the train back up here, parents pick up at the train station.
And it varied. I mean, the first time we came back in the wee hours of the morning. The second time we came back, we got back at like 1 o'clock in the morning. So it does vary, and we won't know that until closer to the date, what time our flights will be. The airlines they work with: British Airways, American Airlines, Delta, Virgin, and United Airlines. Both times that I went, British Airways was the one that they went with. So accommodations, there are a bunch of hotel links on here. These are the hotels that they tend to use. The hotel that they used the very first time I went is no longer available because Hard Rock took it over, and it's now a Hard Rock resort, and it like quadrupled the cost of the rooms, which is funny because the rooms are tiny. Let me tell you guys, this is something you do need to be aware of regarding hotels in England, okay? Do not look at these pictures on here. Those are the top of the line hotels that dignitaries stay in. Rooms in England are about the size of a cruise ship room. They are tiny. They are tiny, and that includes for the chaperones, because the chaperone I shared a room with on this last time, we had to rearrange the beds just to be able to fit our luggage in the room. So the rooms are tiny. You've got to keep in mind in London that a lot of these buildings that the hotels are in, a lot of them also used to be something else. They used to be homes, they used to be apartments, where that might have just been a bedroom, and they got renovated into hotels. So the rooms are very small. Just be prepared for that. Okay, walking space is not going to be a lot if you bring giant luggage. Okay. So yes, you can look at these pictures and go ahead to these links once you guys have this sent to you electronically, but just be aware, if you're looking at the big rooms, that's not the rooms we're going to be in. We're going to be in the small rooms. The first time I went, there was 2 to 3, and yeah, they did the same thing, 2 to 3 in a room. The rooms that had 3 people in them were obviously a little bit bigger. But they had doubles and triples, and they were about the same cost because it was just a tiny room if it was a double. So the last time we stayed at the Holiday Inn Kensington High Street, that's the one we were at last time. Meals. Okay, so meals is something I wanted to explain to you guys so you know what's involved in it. The majority of the meals are covered, but not all meals. Okay. However, sometimes there's ways you can budget it. One year they gave us vouchers, and how you spent those vouchers, if you didn't spend a lot on one meal, you didn't have to buy yourself a meal later. You just use the rest of the vouchers later. And a lot of kids did that because they were like, hey, Why use it all up and then have to pay for another meal when I can budget my money and do it that way? They do provide breakfast every single morning, and you get some kind of voucher or a meal provided for dinner. So lunch, I believe, is the one that is not always available. There is a sack lunch the day of the parade. They do provide them with lunch before the New Year's Day parade, because you don't want people marching on an empty stomach. It's a 2-mile route. Okay, yeah, it doesn't feel like it. I thought that too. It really doesn't feel like it. It's so high energy and it's so much fun. It does not feel like it. And it's cool because like you're marching through London. Like, it's just cool. You're like, look at all these buildings, look at all these people. So should you bring some spending money for meals? Yeah, a little bit. But you're not going to need to like break the bank. Most of your meals are included. Like I said, you have a big breakfast. It's a breakfast buffet at the hotel. Be prepared. It is a British breakfast buffet. It's not the same as American breakfast buffet. I can tell you, if you like your coffee sweet, be prepared to put about a pound of sugar, because sugar in Europe is not as sweet as sugar in America. It's not as processed. So I'm glad I didn't take sugar in my coffee, because the parents were like, I can't get it to taste sweet enough. But they do have a buffet breakfast. Depending on the hotel will depend on what you'll get. The hotel did have a buffet dinner available to us. So our dinners were actually buffet style as well. So that worked out really, really well. Okay. Sightseeing. Okay, so you definitely have a lot of time and a lot of scheduled sightseeing. I want to share this really quickly with you. This is Stuart. Stuart is the best. The kids absolutely love him. He is in charge of all the tour guides. He actually trains them now. So whether a school gets him or not is very rare. He's who I was with when I accidentally saw the Queen of England. That was kind of cool. It was on a preview trip, and we couldn't get through Westminster because Parliament had gotten delayed. So we had to get off of our bus for a bus tour and walk. And the Queen was in session in Parliament. And all of a sudden we heard this whistle blow, and this person is like, she's coming, she's coming. And we're like, who? She goes, the Queen. And like the whole tour group was a little bit ahead of us. So me and the other 2 teachers were like, oh, we're going to wait right here. And we stopped. Sure enough, there goes the Queen driving by with Prince Charles, because Philip was in the hospital at the time. And she was literally as close to me as you are right now. And I got a video. So it was like, and evidently it's very rare to see the Queen. So that was quite a big deal. And the people who had walked a little bit faster were jealous because they didn't get as good a picture because it stopped partway. So this is Stuart, and he's going to talk a little bit about the
My
tour
name's
guides.
Stuart Cannon, and I'm a London Blue Badge tourist guide, and I manage all the tourist guides on your itineraries. The Blue Badge is the highest qualification in guiding in this country. These days, it's a degree equivalent course, takes 2 years, and it's the gold standard, the symbol of excellence in guiding. There are certain sites in this country that will not allow guides in unless you have one of these badges. And working with your groups, we'll be working with the drivers. We will manage your tours professionally and efficiently. That's what we do, that's how we're trained, and that's what you can expect from all of us. So what will you actually see when you're here in London? Well, your parade route itself includes some of the most famous tourist attractions, including here, Trafalgar Square. Our other tours include the Tower of London, the castle that was built 950 years ago to defend London, also now home to the crown jewels, the regalia used at royal coronations. The River Thames running right through the middle of London, a river tour is a fantastic way to see London, and we also take you to Greenwich to hear about the seafaring and maritime heritage of our island nation. And then there's Windsor Castle, the favourite residence of the Queen and a favourite tourist attraction as well. Still a working royal palace and used for royal events, including state banquets. If you can't get enough of royal palaces and castles, then there's Hampton Court Palace. You can explore the routes of the different parts of the palace, whether it's Tudor, 16th century, or Baroque, 18th century. Alternatively, there's Oxford. home to one of the most famous universities in the world, an attractive tour, and one which also includes entrance into one of the largest and most famous colleges, Christchurch. And we love working with groups like you, who are always so excited to be here. And we feed off that to make sure that we can deliver a really great tour experience for you here in London.
So that's just a little snippet. There we go again. There it is. A little snippet of what's involved in the tours. You really get a phenomenal tour of London. You do a bus tour through Westminster, through the financial district, through all of the inner city of London. You do a riverboat tour on the Thames River. And all of the tour guides, because there'll be multiple schools on that riverboat, and it's only the schools. So the tour guides who are assigned to each of the different schools will take a part of that tour and explain things that you're seeing along the river. You go down to Greenwich, you get to see the Naval Academy, I think it is, where they filmed Les Mis, they filmed, oh gosh, a lot of big movies there. There was one film there literally recently, and I can't remember off the top of my head. I should have this memorized by now. The Queen's House, you go up to the Royal Observatory, the Prime Meridian, get to stand in two hemispheres at the same time. So you get to take a picture on the Prime Meridian, stand in the Western. If you don't know what that is, that's 0 longitude. That is the center of all the time zones. So Greenwich Standard Time. Okay, that's the center of all the time zones. So you get to go up there. It is quite a walk. It is a brutal walk, especially if you're from Florida, where we do not have hills, because it is a very, very steep hill to get to the top of the Royal Observatory. They were kind to us the first year we went. A few of our chaperones had the most god-awful, like, chest congestion thing going around, and yeah, they gave us permission. They took the bus around and drove us up there. They did not do that the second time around. You will get to choose between Hampton Court or Oxford University. I have done both. I can tell you that Oxford University, 90% of what you will see is outside. You only get to go inside like 2 buildings. One of which is the hall where they used to base the Harry Potter dining hall on. Okay. Hampton Court is actually a palace that was built by Henry VIII. You can go to Hampton Court and you can actually walk through the tours of the entire palace. Palaces are not as ornate as you thought they were. It has a really amazing music room though. Hampton Court, you can't take pictures in it either, which made me sad. So you get to choose between Oxford and Hampton Court. Windsor is automatically included in the trip. Windsor Castle is part of it. Yes, you do get to go inside the castle and walk through the tour. You get to wander the grounds, and if it's open, it wasn't when we went. You should be able to have time to go inside the church where Harry and Meghan got married, which is on the grounds of Windsor Castle. So, gosh, we go to Buckingham Palace, see it from the outside, obviously. The last time we went, we did actually get to see a changing of the guard, which was great. So you can see a changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace, get some great pictures there. It's not as pretty in the wintertime as it is in the summer because all of the Queen's roses obviously are dormant in the wintertime. But you definitely can enjoy that. We are including in this trip this year, there is one night that's usually free. We are including a show on the West End. That is a part of the estimated costs that we gave you. If you don't know what the West End is, that is London's version of Broadway. So as to what show, I do not know yet, but we are including a show at the West End as part of this trip. And there is a little bit of downtime here and there where you can explore the areas around where your hotel is, or in chaperone groups. One of the things we made a priority of doing both times that I went was go to the museum district. The hotel that we were at was within walking distance of the museum district, which was great. So one of the nights that we didn't have anything designated to do, went ice skating in front of the Museum of Natural History. There's also the Victoria and Albert Museum, which is all like decor from the insides of homes in England dating all the way back to medieval times. And then there's the Science Museum, and they're all one block, so they're all right there, but you can actually If you can pay to go ice skating in front, that is something you do have to pay for. You can pay to go ice skating in front of the Natural History Museum. Natural History Museum is massive. It is massive, and there is so much in there. It's way, way cooler than I even thought it was going to be. So there's some other things that you can do, like during the downtime. There's like ways to choose what you want to do with some of the time that you have there. And of course, you try to plan those things in advance so that you're not like, when you get there, what am I going to do? So just wanted to give you guys an idea of that. That's the bus tour of London and the West End that I told you about. You get to spend a half day at the Tower of London. Tower of London dates back to Roman times. The foundation under the Tower of London goes all the way back to ancient Roman times. So it's really kind of neat. The Tower of London is now a museum. You'll see suits of armor that Henry VIII wore. You'll see like his old throne room, which you would think, wow, really fancy. No, it's a little wooden throne. It's literally like, it looks like a farmer built it because that's how old it is. You know, the skills back then. It's really fascinating. You will hear where he beheaded his many queens and see where Anne Boleyn was killed. You can wait in line, and it is a long line, but you can wait in line to see the crown jewels. If you have never seen them, I strongly recommend. It is really, really cool. Because it's not just about seeing them, it also explains the history of them. And you're sitting here thinking, oh, it's a bunch of jewels, but they're actually representative of royalty. And you find out what they were used for, who gifted this diamond, what did they do with this diamond, and then they turned it into that. But it's really, really fascinating to look at something that looks like a giant piece of plastic when you look at it, to realize that, oh my God, that's a diamond, like this big. It's crazy. So you do have the opportunity, should you choose to wait in line at the Tower of London and see the crown jewels. Strongly recommend. It is a long line, though, I'm not going to lie. Greenwich and the Tower of London, just showed you that. Definitely want to get a picture at Tower Bridge. That is not London Bridge, by the way. London Bridge is a very boring looking, ordinary bridge. The one that you guys always picture, that's actually Tower Bridge right next to the Tower of London. So that's some of the stuff that we just talked about. There's more of the stuff we talked about. St. Paul's Cathedral. One thing we did manage to do with some of our downtime, and it is an optional thing, but I definitely recommend it. They have this thing called Evensong. Evensong is it's literally a church service, but it's just music. So their church choir, the actual choir, either at Westminster Abbey or at St. Paul's Cathedral, you just go in, you sit, you can't take pictures inside of the cathedrals, that is against the rules, and you just listen to this beautiful music. And if you haven't heard a boys choir in England, you are in for a treat if we get to see an Evensong. We did not get to see one my first time, but we did the second time I went. It's just absolutely glorious. So we did walk once our bus tour dropped us off around St. Paul's Cathedral, and we got to walk there. You walk across the Millennial Bridge that was in the Harry Potter movie, the Dementors, you know, that bridge across the Thames. Yeah, that was, you get to walk across that bridge. Yeah, that's really, really neat. That's Hampton Court that we were just talking about. This I'm not going to talk about much because they had done away with it last trip, and I don't know if they're bringing it back. But they gave us originally little headphones with guided tours, and it will walk you through a tour and explain it to you. And you take your headphones out while you walk to the next stop. It involved getting on the tube, which is the subway, so that the chaperone groups was split off into little groups and do the walking tours. It was a really neat thing. We did the Jack the Ripper one, and it was fabulous. So we were looking forward to doing it again second time around, and it wasn't there. So just so you know. That's if they come back, I will be sure to let you know. Okay, visitor Oyster card. This is something that you will get on your trip. The Oyster card is what gives the kids access to ride the buses or the subway in downtown London. There are times where they expected to be at a certain location at a certain time where we will go as a group and we will get on the tube and ride over and then walk to our location. The one thing you need to learn about London is you don't want to drive anywhere. You don't want to drive anywhere. It's not designed for the traffic that it gets. As a matter of fact, if you own a car and drive in London, you have to actually pay a special tax to be able to drive in the city. Most people who work in London ride the train into London and then travel by tube anywhere they need to go. The subway in London is actually very nice. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like an adventure in and of itself. It's not like the subways you think of when you think of the subways in America. They are very well kept. Some of them have air conditioning, some of them do not. Doesn't matter though, because we will be there in the winter time. So anyway, the Oyster card is something you do not want to lose, because if you do not want to lose, you will have to get yourself a new one and you will have to put money on it. Okay. If like, let's say a group wants to go out to King's Crossing to see platform 9 3/4. If you want to do that, you have to take the tube out to there. That might use some of the money. You can reload your Oyster card. So if you go there with a debit card or with cash or whatever, you can reload your Oyster card, put extra money on it to do things like that with the groups. Okay. So that's that information for you. Yes, it does include the double-decker buses, by the way. And New Year's Eve, they throw you a party. They literally have a New Year's Eve party for all of the schools. They will have pizza and soda and a DJ. And so yes, you want to dress up to the nines for that one. Everybody dresses up for the New Year's party. So it is a really, really good time. The first year we had a giant ballroom. The last time the room was a lot smaller and the kids were all hot. So it depends on the hotel you get in, how big the room is, and depends on how many schools are there, which ballroom they'll have it in. But yeah, they do have a big old New Year's party for you guys on New Year's Eve within the hotel where you're staying. So you don't have to go anywhere for it. It's within your hotel. And it's fun. It was fun seeing all the traditions and dances from the different schools from all over the United States. How the same song, they all had their own different dances to it. It's like, oh, that's how you do it where you're from. This is how we do it in Florida. I get an organizer's guide. We do a site inspection in advance. I've already seen it, so we already know what's going on. We will have a person dedicated just to us, who is with us at all times and also stays at our hotel. So we have a tour coordinator who is with us everywhere we go. And then we will have a designated tour guide from Stewart's company who will be doing some of our bus tours, our Oxford tour, our Windsor tour, and the Thames tour. The performances, like I already told you about, we do have the 2 performances that we will be doing. And security and peace of mind, this answers your question. Comprehensive travel insurance policy is included. Okay, it is part of it. It includes cancellation, medical emergencies, personal accident baggage and delayed baggage. Protects the vast majority of the performance tour cost should you be forced to cancel for a significant number of reasons. Majority, not all. As with any kind of trip, there becomes a point where certain things are not refundable. Obviously, the majority of things, because of this insurance policy, they can make that arrangement. But that's why when you look in your trip, you're going to see that the deposit after September is a non-refundable deposit, because it will cover in case any of those things should happen. Okay, the difference in those little bits and pieces. Where do we go from here? I do all this stuff and they send me the official offer. Bob Bone, who was supposed to send it to me, has been in Rome, because they also do a Rome trip and they want me to go to Rome next time, they said. They also do a Rome trip. So he's been in Rome, so he hasn't sent me the official invitation yet. But yes, we are invited. Yes, they've been sending me all of this information until he sends us that. And they will come out in the fall and do a presentation of a framed invitation to the school. So they will expect a little mini performance from the kids. They will come here. They'll have the Lord Mayor of Westminster, which that's a position that changes every year. And he or she will come decked out in the robes and the whole shebang. And they will do an official presentation in front of administration, parents, should they be able to come, because it's usually during the day, and to the students and to us. And we're going to do everything we can to get newspapers here and get some coverage on that, because that's a great way to jumpstart fundraising. people know you're going, makes a big difference. So, and then I just like showing off that they used me for their back cover of the booklet. So that is basically that part of your packet in a nutshell. Do you guys have any questions on that before we go into the logistical stuff that's at the beginning of your package? Any questions on the actual trip?
Is everything included this price or?
Everything except for a few of the meals.
Okay.
Yes. And now if they want to buy souvenirs, obviously,
Yeah.
and they do. Speaking of souvenirs, that made me think of something else. As we get closer to the trip, I'll be talking to you about flight luggage requirements as far as the maximum size and weight. Do not think they are kidding. When you travel overseas, I had a young lady who thought they were kidding, and she was sitting there in the airport taking things out of her luggage and putting it in her friend's luggage because they would not put her luggage on the plane without charging her $100, which her mom was not with her. She did not have that $100. So we will be providing you with all of the maximum weight and size dimensions for your luggage. That includes the carry-on maximum dimensions and all the rules for your luggage. Stick to that like you would not believe, but this is why I'm bringing that up. Leave a little bit of extra weight and room for souvenirs. Don't fill it to maximum and then go, oh my gosh, I bought this thing for my mom, but it won't fit in my bag. Okay, don't do that to yourselves. And I even had chaperones who did not believe that they were going to be strict on the size of luggage, and chaperones who ended up paying money out of their own pockets at the airport because they did not abide by the rules that we very clearly provided to them repeatedly. So please, my second time around, that did not happen because we got to tell the horror stories about what happened the first time around. So I'm telling you the horror stories about what happened the first time around. Don't let that happen to you. You don't want that to happen to you. They will charge you over $100 for your luggage if you go over the weight in order to make it be able to be on the plane. Okay. Are there other questions? Yes.
Do you know what other packages we would be doing?
We're going to go over that. That's all in the packet, and we are open to more ideas. So don't worry about that. Is there anybody, by the way, who did not get the sign-in sheet? Because I can pass that around. Everybody got the sign-in sheet? Cool. I also have another sign-up sheet that I'm going to pass around in a moment after we discuss the fundraisers. Because we are going to definitely need some parent assistance on getting fundraisers done. If you see how much is involved in organizing this trip and all the fundraisers by myself will be near to impossible. So I will need help. Yes, dear.
The fundraisers count towards $1,000.
From what I understand, as far as right reaches, if you're raising the money for the entire, like if you're working a fundraiser for the group, they say it does. But if you're personally benefiting from it, like if the money is going directly towards your individual trip, you're benefiting from it. So Bright Futures usually doesn't count that. If the school knows a way to make that work, then we will find a way to make that work.
The answer is yes.
Okay, so the front of this, the first page on your packet is literally just states everything that we just showed you in the pack, in the presentation. Yeah, it's just a summary of what's in the packet ahead of you guys. Approximate dates for the trip are usually between December 27th and January 4th. Why am I so specific? Because they told me those were approximate. Both times I went, those were the exact dates. So it's somewhere around those, give or take a day. It all depends on, you know, what day of the week New Year's falls on is basically what would vary that at all, as with anything else, including the school year. So yes, there is a very high chance that the first day back to school, the kids will either be on a plane or be severely jet lagged. So be aware of that in advance. The first day of the second semester is probably going to be a wash for your child. Okay. The costs that I'm going to be going over with you guys are currently estimated. They're projected costs. They cannot give us the exact pricing until most likely next year. I did get these approximate costs from the company themselves. I didn't make them up and pull them out of the hat. So this is what we're looking at. They are hoping that fuel costs will go down and that maybe those costs will go down, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Better to assume this is going to be around the range. So just be aware this, the projected costs will vary a little bit. So we do have some requirements for participation. The fact is this is a performance trip. This is a performance trip. So yes, am I opening it up to everyone? Sure am. You want to know why? Because I trust my ability to teach your kids to sing. And my kids who are in this room, who have been with me this year, they trust my ability to teach their friends to sing. Am I right, kids?
Yes.
Okay. That, believe it or not, I've had so many people in my career say, oh, but I can't sing. And you know what my response is? That's why you need me. That's my job. Okay. And I've been doing this long enough. I've been teaching choir since 2005. And I did elementary school choir even before that. So I've been doing choir. I've been doing this long enough to know what I can and cannot do. And I can tell you, can I take a bunch of kids, even who have never sung before, and have them in a year and a half ready to go there and be one of the best choirs at that performance? Sure can. I definitely can. There is a place for every kid in choir. They may not be the soloist, but there is a place for every kid in choir. And the kids, how many of you are my current choir members? Raise your hands. If any of you guys are not currently in my choir and you want to ask, and you know any of these students, talk to them. They will tell you anything you need to know. And if you have other friends who are hesitant because of that, and they didn't come to the meeting tonight because they don't know if this is something like, I don't know, I don't sing. Talk to these kids. They will tell you. They will tell you what it's like to be in choir. We have already built a family here at Somerset, and that family is just going to continue to grow. Okay. Yeah. It's my babies already. So yes, participation in choir is going to be mandatory. What we are trying to do is have anybody who is on this trip to take at least a semester of choir next year and be in the fall semester the year of the trip itself. So if we discover there are conflicts due to, let's say you try to sign up, but you realize because of, you know, I mean, let's face it, sometimes you have kids who have conflicts because maybe they're in a remedial reading and remedial math limits their electives. Let's say it's the only period that a certain class is being taught and you can't get into the class because of that. I do have an after school group on currently on Mondays. I may be changing the day of the week next year, just a heads up. So it's currently on Mondays. We meet after school once a week. I am going to tell you, don't choose that just because you want to. That is the last resort if you have a scheduling conflict that we cannot overcome. Okay? Because you will learn and progress so much faster being in the class. We were just talking about that after school today. Technique is something that needs repetition. And if our group is going to be small, you cannot hide the bad technique in a small group. And bad technique is not your fault if not in my class. I just don't have the time to teach it to you to the level that you need it. So we're unless it is beyond your control, you're expected to take at least one semester of choir next year and then be in the fall semester the year that we actually go on the trip. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. And if it is beyond your control, you just contact me and we'll figure it out together. Okay.
Miss Wally is going to, once you guys have signed up and you know you're doing it, Miss Wally is going to give a list of those students' names to guidance so that guidance can make the scheduling piece a priority.
Awesome.
However, that does mean though that you guys need to try your hardest on your test. Make sure you get 3s and above on everything. Don't fail anything so that you don't need to repeat anything. That makes the scheduling piece easier.
Yes, it does. Very much so. Okay, we will be doing next year, and especially once we get the actual festival music, we will be doing a weekly lunch rehearsal. And what we may do is like each week be one song. So there will be one day a week that we'll have a rehearsal where only the London group will be together just to work on the London music, okay? For some of you guys, it'll be a lot of repeating songs you've already learned, because when you have to learn that much music, and you have people who you have one semester and not the next, you pull out what you already know to add to your repertoire for the concert, okay? So for our little mini concert, we will probably pull out songs we've already worked on. practice your music. It will be posted on the Google Classroom. You see links on this page. I've already created that Google Classroom, as you can see, I think right there. Yep, there it is. I put 2024 because it's technically New Year's 2024, even though we're going in December of 2023. I'm just trying to keep it as summarized as possible. So the Google Classroom, on your paper here, you see the code to get into it. Parents, you are welcome to join the Google Classroom as well. It doesn't just have to be your students. That way you can monitor when new things are getting posted for the kids, so you can make sure they're following through what they're supposed to be doing. Plus, whenever I post anything, I post it in multiple locations, and one of those locations is always the Google Classroom, okay? So you will get parts recordings for much of your music. Most of your music you will be able to practice with the Google Classroom. Kids in my class, you can vouch for that. Everything you need is on that Google Classroom. Again, get your passport, have it in hand by no later than September 2023. Participate in performance leading up to the trip. For instance, we might be able to line up some paid gigs where we go sing somewhere and they give us money that can go towards the cost of everybody's trip. Okay. Also, we were discussing lining up some caroling in tradition downtown Fort Pierce during the holiday season. You do that and you just put hats out for money, and you would be amazed at how fast that money comes in. Okay, that was one of my biggest fundraisers at my previous school, except we used to do it at Stewart. So I haven't done it here, so I've got to make my connections with the right people to make that happen. But that's another thing that we'll be doing. Abide by any school policies for eligibility for trips. You cannot be on academic or behavior probation. That is the fall before the trip. Personally, don't get on it next year either, okay? Deal? Okay. And no D's or F's on the first semester report card of that school year. So that year, you know you're going to London. Guys, you got to stay extra on your game, because I know some of you guys, you know, every once in a while you slip up. Everybody slips up. You got to stay on your game if you're going to be going on this trip. You do not want to lose the trip at the last minute just because you dropped the ball.
And remember, by then, when we look at those grades, that December, when that's finalized, at that point, you're past refund. Parents, you're past refund at that point. So stay on your students about their grades.
And this is me staying on you as well. Children, and I've done this for a few people. If you are finding, if you're in my class and you are finding that your academics are suffering because of something that may not even be related to choir, but you need to use my time to make sure that your grades are up, I will let you use my time to make sure that you keep your grades up. If a teacher needs to see you and you need to go to see that teacher to get some extra help on something, or maybe to sit in on, maybe they teach the class twice a day and you know you need the review. If we need to make that arrangement with teachers to get your grades up, we will make that arrangement. I've been doing this a long time. It is in my best interest that you stay academically eligible. Because if you don't, I start losing you from my program, and I don't want to lose you. So I will support you in keeping your grades up, but you have to communicate with me. If I need to find another choir kid to tutor you, I will find another choir kid to tutor you. You can sit in the corner of my room at lunch and work on work. And I have some kids who are doing that right now. I have some kids who are currently doing that, okay? So yeah, I will support you as best I can to help you keep your grades up. Deal?
Deal.
You got to do it too, kids.
Deal.
I can't save you. I can only assist you. All right. Okay. So communications, Google Classroom code is listed here. All students on the trip will be required to be in the Google Classroom. Parents, it is optional, but strongly recommended. There is a remind code. For the remind code, I'm asking all parents to mandatory join. Kids 13 and over may join, because the way I do it is I prefer you do it as the texting rather than the app, and I'm going to tell you why. Students in particular. Y'all never check the app. Y'all always check your texts. You know what I'm saying? So how do you get the reminds to come to your phone as a text? You text the code to 81010. So you can even do it right now if you want to. If you know this is something you want to commit to, feel free to do so. You text to 81010, and the code is capital LON 2024. LON 2024. Okay. And then that way, all of my reminders will come to you as a text on your phone. Okay. The reason I say 13 and over may join is because it specifically says on there, I am not allowed to text anyone under the age of 13. However, if you have the Remind app and it's coming to you as an app, that is a different situation. I am sending you something through a school app. Okay. The code is LON 2024. And then last but not least, I will be making an email group specifically for the London trip. I spoke with Miss Rains. There is this program that I used at my old school. It's a management program for choirs and bands called Charms Office. It allows me to create all of your fundraisers, to create the trip, everything online, so that you guys will have your own login, so you can at any point in time go on and see where you are with the trip, see where you are financially, see what money you have done as fundraisers, things like that. You will have access to all of that information. But that also gives me, rather than, because as you guys know, sometimes emailing through Skyward is a beast. That also gives me a way to send you guys emails. It automatically copies my school email, so the school also has a record of that email at all times. So it automatically sends one directly to the school as well. That way I can be sending you guys emails on a regular basis, because sometimes the long ones don't all fit on Remind, and keeping you updated on stuff. If I ever need to send a document, I'll send it through Remind. I will send it via email, and I will put it on the Google Classroom. So you will have 3 different ways that you can get access to any information that I send out. And if it's something that needs a signature, you will also get a hard copy. Kids can vouch for that. Usually everything that I put out goes out in 5 different ways. Okay, any questions on that? Awesome. Okay, so on the next page, we're looking at the projected expenses and the estimated cost of the trip. Good news, it's less than Japan. I'm laughing because at my old school, this was like the most expensive trip anybody went on here. On here, I'm like, hey, it's not as expensive as Japan, guys. So I'll use that as a selling point. Why not?
There's still 3 seats open on the Japan.
Oh, I wanted to go so bad, but I'm like, I just bought a house. I can't afford to pay a plan. Okay, so we do have a payment plan. Miss Rains and I sat down and planned this out together. Okay, well, I had it set up with like big lumps, and she's like, no, spread it all out, just spread it out. That way they know where they are at any given point in time. So we are starting the payments over this summer. As a way, the first one, your deposit is before the end of the school year. Why? So I know who I have committed to the trip, so that you guys can get started on fundraising over the summer. So everything is in place and we are ready to get started on getting the planning going. Okay, that's the reasoning for the deposit, because then I know you're committed. Okay, and then we have it divided up into 11 payments from there on out. September 1st of 2023 will be the remaining balance. We're going to be doing some fundraisers to offset your costs. Some of them will be individual fundraisers where you can offset your own personal costs. Some of them will be group fundraisers. Like if we go to a paying gig, that will offset everybody. A paying gig might only be $10, but those little things add up over time, okay? They will come off the end of your trip. Any money that you fundraise will subtract off your total at the end. So you could be done paying by March 3rd of next year if you fundraise enough and not have to do anything else for the whole rest of the trip, okay? So how you guys work the fundraisers will determine how much you end up having to pay for the trip. Does that make sense to you? Okay, yes.
And this is per person?
Yes, this is per person, honey. Yes. You got to keep in mind, I know kids, this is directed towards you, your parents are very well aware of this. The most expensive part of traveling overseas is the plane ticket. Okay, your average plane ticket before the pandemic round trip to England was between $1,400 and $1,500. I do not know what they are right now, but I know that costs are higher as a result of the pandemic and fuel costs. So the majority, literally about half the cost of the trip is just your travel. Okay, travel, that and the hotels are usually your biggest costs on a trip. The airplane and the hotel. Okay, and keeping in mind that we have a bus dedicated to us the whole time that we're there, that's another set cost, no matter how many kids are on the trip, that bus is still going to cost the same. So the more kids are on the trip, usually the slightly lower the costs go. So feel free to recruit friends. Okay, I'm serious. The smaller the group is, things like the bus will actually tack onto your costs, because a bus is a set size, it is a set cost. If you fill it, it's less per person. If you don't fill it, it's more per person. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so here are the planned fundraisers that we've already started discussing or are ready to begin. Beginning summer 2022, meaning right now, we're going to start with our sponsorships. It says paperwork attached, it's not attached. I have it here. I'm going to hand that out to you guys, so you can take however many you need. I can make more and will make more. Sure. I made enough for everybody to take 2 to start, and I will make it available on the, I will actually post it on the Google Classroom. And once I have people in the Remind, I will also send it out by Remind in case you ever want to print any up at home. There are 4 options. Actually, there are 5 options because I did the 100% for the student as well. There are 5 options that your sponsors may choose from. They can, let's say you have somebody who just wants to support the whole choir. And they're like, I want to make, and yes, there are places that do this. I don't know them personally, but they are, because I've had other students get them. I want to make a $5,000 donation to the choir. Yes, there are people who do that stuff. So they have the option to have 100% of it divided equally amongst all the kids. They also have the option to do, I typed this. I must have been half asleep when I typed this. They also have the option to do 75% to the group, 25 to the kid. So that 25% of the donation goes directly to your kid. They have the option to do 50-50. Hey, 50% of my donation is going to be for Andres. The other 50%, I'm going to support the other kids too. And that will get divided amongst the kids. And then vice versa. They can do 75% to the kid and throw 25, or they can do a sponsorship that is a 100% sponsorship for your child. Okay. So that is on the form on the back. I mean, yeah, on the front and on the back, you can see that information. Okay. Sponsors can include and are not limited to professionals, doctors, lawyers, plumbers, electricians, basically anybody who makes their living off of getting individual profit off of doing you a service. Could be companies or small businesses. Builders in Florida are a big one. If you know somebody who works for a builder, I know the builders of Melry, whatever it is, the one that does a lot of building out in Indiantown, used to be one of our biggest sponsors out there. They would just throw $1,000. I was like, thanks. So builders, believe it or not, are a good one. Your AC guy. If you take private lessons, piano, guitar, voice lessons, or violin or anything like that, talk to the voice or instrumental studio, the music studio, okay? Small stores, little mom and pop shops, okay? This is a tax write-off for them. It is a donation, okay? Large corporations, these are much harder to get. Unless you have a connection, I do not recommend. You have a year and a half if you want to try, but I'm going to tell you, large corporations are very difficult to get money out of. Publix is very difficult to get money out of. A lot of kids are like, I work for Publix, I'm going to try that. Yeah, it didn't work. Okay. And then family members, guys. If you have family members who live all over the US and you want to send them, you know, an email, you can show them this form, and they want to say, you know, it's like when you have a graduation party and everybody sends a check. You know, yeah, maybe $25 here, and it may be $10 there, maybe, you know, $100 from Aunt Susie, but that adds up pretty quick. So, you know, let your family members know. Grandparents. Grandparents love to do things for those little ones because they still look at y'all as little ones. You know what I'm saying? Now, don't do that to your grandma. If grandma is barely putting food in her fridge, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, obviously, use your judgment. You know your family, and you don't want to make anybody feel obligated. But by the same token, if they know the kids have this opportunity, you'd be amazed at how many family members would send you even $10, $20, $30, and how quickly that can add up, especially if you have a big family. Okay. Throughout the school year, we're going to be planning some of the following fundraisers. These are all to raise money for individual costs. So these are where Alexa's like, I need to raise $1,000. Well, Alexa, you go work these fundraisers and you raise yourself $1,000. Okay, treat your fundraising like a part-time job. Why? Because if you look at the hourly rate, an hour of fundraising is going to make you more than what you would make in an hour at a minimum wage job, if you take that hour very seriously. Okay, we're looking at cheesecake sales, cookie dough sales. We're going to try country meats. It's like, you know how the kids walk around with the boxes of chocolates? It's like that, except you're walking around with a bag of meat sticks. Those were a massive hit at my old school, but the Future Farmers of America kidnapped it for the entire year, and I never got to sell them again. And I made a lot of money off of those. You would sign them out from me because you would not be able to get more until you turned in the money for the ones that you sold. So each bag is $10 worth of sticks. So, why those? Like the chocolate, they are 50% profit. Very few fundraisers are 50% profit. Those are 50% profit. Okay. Popcorn sales. Miss Rain sent me a link to, well, you sent me the name of the company for the popcorn sales. The link wasn't in there if there was supposed to be one, by the way. I meant to tell you that. I've been a little busy lately trying to get this all organized and end of year concert being planned as well, so I apologize. And if it does not conflict with the FEA, we might look at doing like 1 month of selling the chocolate bars. It all depends on the Future Educators of America Club, because right now they actually have that fundraiser reserved. Now there are also some group fundraisers that we're going to do. Okay, one of the ones that is really a huge success, something that is a really huge success is Publix and Walmart fundraisers. What you do is you pick, I'm going to explain it more than what was in here because it was a lot to type and it would have gotten confusing to type it all. What you do is you take a weekend and you book a fundraiser at every Publix or Walmart in the area, and you send 2 or 3 kids to each one, or they sign up for shifts. So you do 6 hours. You do from 9 to 12, and then from like 12 to 3 usually is what you do. You can sign up for 3 hours, you can sign up for 6 hours. That's up to you. How much money do you want to make? How many hours do you want to work? We take all the money that the donations that we receive from all of those, we pull them together. We figure out how many hours were worked. So if there were 4 kids who worked 6 hours at the one Publix, that's 24 hours. Does that make sense? We take the total money, divide it by the total number of hours worked, and then each kid gets an hourly rate, and that goes towards their individual trip. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that way, if one Publix happens to be busier than another Publix, the kid at the less busy Publix who's working just as hard isn't getting penalized just because the store wasn't busy. Okay, so, and then we divide it evenly as an hourly rate amongst the kids, and that money goes towards their trip. So really cool thing. Takes a lot of organizing and takes parent volunteers because we would need background check parents with every group at every store. Okay. And during December, like I said, caroling in tradition downtown Fort Pierce is what we're looking at. I'm going to look into that more. I have time. That's not until December. Okay. We're going to form a fundraising committee of parents for this trip. These are parents who want to help me to organize these, or if you have any other ideas for fundraisers. I have a separate sign up. Yes, it's asking for your email again, because this is one, and your cell phone number, because this one is specifically just towards the fundraising. I'm going to be making a list off of this. So I would like to pass this around. If anybody is interested in signing up for my fundraising committee, I would greatly appreciate any assistance that you can give. And then the last thing.
This is going to be the mom that does the most ideas for fundraisers.
Ooh. Is that your mom's Jackson? Your kid is an amazing teacher's aide, by the way.
Thank you.
She's the bomb. Okay, and then the last thing on here is just the very last page. The last page, why? Because it's the one that you have to rip off and turn in. And this is just the commitment form. As you can see, it has the big requirements. I'm asking you to initial each of them, and we are asking you to literally rewrite the sentence. I understand that my deposit is not refundable after September of 2022. Okay, we're asking you to write that out before you sign this, so we know that you read that sentence, okay?
I know, I did it.
I have many years of having a lot of contracts signed, and how many times I can't tell you where somebody's like, well, why can't I get that back? I'm like, because, and like I said to you guys, the cost of the buses, things like that, once they set that price in, and that price is locked in, somebody backing out at the last minute, it's detrimental to the other kids, because certain costs do not change, like buses, okay? So we're giving them a number, and they're gonna give us an estimated cost based on that number. Okay, that's the reasoning behind that. Also, down the bottom, you'll see my child so-and-so, put their name, will be attending the London International Choral Festival in December 23 through January 24. Attached, please find $200 for my child. $200 for myself as chaperone. A level 2 background check is required for all chaperones. Okay, now does that have to be the year of the trip? Because usually, yeah. So that I cannot do the official level 2 background check. I mean, I can do one in advance if you should volunteer for anything else for me. But the level 2 background check needs to be current the year of the trip. Okay.
So what will happen in August or September is she will be getting with Ms. Rosenfeld down in the office. Ms. Rosenfeld will give her the link for you. She'll send it to you guys through her different communications. The level 2 requires fingerprint and drug test.
Okay.
It requires fingerprint and drug test. There will be a link for you to go to register for it. And then it's actually through the school district main office. They will set the appointments up for you and take care of everything. And then they will send us a letter and say, okay, this parent is cleared. That letter goes on file, then you're allowed to go.
So we will get on that immediately at the beginning of that school year. If they do it over the summer, is that possible? Or does it have to start in August?
No, it's after July 1st.
After July 1st.
Our year is July 1.
Okay.
to June 3rd.
So since you guys are, still doing payment plans, I'll probably try to get you that link before August of next year. Okay, not this coming year, but the year after. Okay, so anybody who's chaperoning, just be aware that that is a requirement.
If you're wanting to help with any of the fundraisers that's going to, like the groups at the different stores and stuff like that, where you are the only adult with a group of students, that clearance has to be done for that as well. So if you're wanting to do that, just let her know. We'll go ahead and get you the link.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. Okay, so I am at the tail end of my presentation. So last Q&A. Any more questions for me? Yes.
So you said the New Year's is like formal dress.
New Year's, yeah, just dress nice.
Yeah.
And
Other dress requirements though?
there aren't any specific dress requirements.
Mine is appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's similar. It's not necessarily as fancy as prom, but it's usually similar to like what kids would wear to homecoming. Very similar to what kids would wear to homecoming. Yeah, cute little cocktail dresses. Boys, wear a button-down shirt and a tie.
And
They'll
because,
already have their black pants because that's our choir uniform.
and because we're from Florida, going to London at that time.
Freezing.
Yeah. Now the New Year's party is indoors. You never actually leave the hotel, so we don't have to worry about that for that. But yeah, you guys got to plan ahead. I am going to tell you, finding coats in Florida is hard.
I've taken groups
Burlington's
to
around it.
London. I've taken groups to England a couple of times. Every time I've taken them, it's been in March and freezing in March, so probably double freezing in December.
Believe it or not, I was shocked. I was expecting colder than it was. It's usually in the low to mid 40s, which by Florida standards is freezing. The one time though, see, I love the cold. I live for the cold. You can't see, I smile when it's cold out. And my kids were laughing at me because we were on the Thames boat, and you're going down the river and the wind is blowing in your face, and it was like low 40s that day, and it was freezing to the point where I went inside, but the kids were laughing. They're like, Wally, we thought you liked the cold. I said, I like it. I'm cold, but I like it. I didn't say I don't like it. I'm just cold, Yes, I'm shivering, but I like it. So I grew up in the Northeast. I've been down here 28 years, and I'm still a doing good girl at heart. It's never gone away from me. Okay, any other questions? Awesome. You guys excited?
There's gonna be more.
Yes, but let's say, I know a builder, let's say that contact a builder and he decides to make a donation, to whom he needs to write a check or how.
Yeah, oh, I didn't put that on there. Darn it. I'll, on the next edition, I'll add that on there. Checks payable to the school.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
that's the
Dutch
key.
or London trip, something like that?
Down in the memo, I
Okay.
would write London sponsorship and just, you would want to attach it to a sponsorship form.
Okay.
Okay, and there are plenty here, so take as many as you want, guys. I'm going to be making more as well. So there are plenty here. Take as many sponsorship forms as you want. Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, you guys were awesome. I'm really excited. And there are a few people I know who are not here today who are definitely planning on doing it. They, I know I have one who has an injury and could not come. She's like, I can't go up the stairs. I'm like, I'll get with you. It's one of my current choir parents. So anyway, yeah, I will definitely be following up with you guys. Once I get Charm's office set up, I'll be sending that group emails out. I will be contacting you via Remind, keeping you updated, giving you reminders before that deposit is due on the 27th. Thank you guys for being here. Do you have anything you wanted to?
Yeah, so